Guten Morgen und herzlich willkommen im Pavillon von Kanada als Ehrengast der Frankfurter Buchmesse dieses Jahr. Ich heiße Sie herzlich willkommen zu der ersten Session, zu dem ersten Gespräch heute Morgen. The first conversation that takes place today is a meet and greet between illustrators from Canada and Belgium. The session is entitled The Audacity of of children's literature. Sorry, I was expecting the title to be in the back still. And the German expression is also very nice. It's die Wagemutigkeit. And so these three illustrators, in conversation with our moderator, Angela Spitzig, will talk about how they came to illustration and what are the challenges if you're working in both forms of expression, like words and also like being an author and also illustrating the works. So a warm welcome to Nancy Vo from Canada, Stefan Bonen from Belgium, and Melvin from Belgium. And a warm welcome also to the moderator, Angela Spitzig.
Wait, sorry.
No, you sit next to me. So.
Ooh, that was light.
Nancy from Vancouver.
Thank you.
Good morning. We all look a little windblown today, but we made it on time. Yeah. So I'm very happy to welcome you again. Stefan Bonen, Wout, who is actually called
Melvin.
Melvin, yeah. I keep thinking Merlin because that's a magician.
It's
and you're
it's
a
the same
magician.
magic. Yes.
Yeah, okay. So, and of course, Nancy Vo, who came all the way from Canada to talk about children's books. And Melvin, can you, here. Can you just, Nancy, hold out your book just so people can see the title and the way you do your work? Okay. And Stefan, could you hold up the book that you two have created together? Here comes Oma, here comes Granny. Here we have The Outlaw, and we have another one, The Ranger. So these are the books that we're talking about today. Okay. And I'll start with Nancy. Welcome to the guest of honor here today. You are an architect, you plan interior design and create these things by day, and you write children's books at night. That's what we read about you. And you write them and you illustrate them at the same time. And there will be a trilogy. After The Outlaw and The Ranger, you will do another one, and you call that the Crow Trilogy. And I'm very happy to have these books here, and they're outside at the bookstore as well, from the wonderful edition in Germany called Freies Geistesleben. The text is translated by Richard Rosenstein, and they're beautifully done. Today you are meeting two partners in crime. You are meeting Stefan Bonen, who is the writer from Belgium, the Flemish part of Belgium.
The Flemish part, yes.
And you meet Wout Schildermans.
Exactly, Wout Schildermans, yes.
Schildermans, alias Mr. Melvin, who is the illustrator,
yes.
who has done work for design and advertisement. But this one, Here Comes Granny, that's your very first...
That's my really first book.
Children's book as an illustrator. Yeah. And leading up to the topic, which I find very interesting, audacity in children's books. And this is in the Arena Publishing House. Excuse me, we always want to mention.
Yes.
Your translator is Verena Kiefer, who translated it from Netherlands to German.
Exactly.
So this is a very international panel, actually. And leading up to the idea audacity in children's books, I would first like to learn how audacious you are as persons. So Nancy, she's still enthralled by you. What got you to start with children's books all of a sudden? You had a nice job to begin with.
Yeah. So this is a funny way of coming about children's books. When I had my second child, she was a crier. She would literally cry 10 times a day.
Oh.
And we live in a small apartment in Vancouver. And it would be really hard because our neighbors would kind of stomp on the floor, like, please stop your child from crying. And at some point, I thought she must see this differently. So I used that as a coping mechanism. I've kind of made this little book, a story, and then that was not something that was ever meant to be published. It was just an eye-opening. I can make a book, and let's learn how to do this for real.
So did you make it because you wanted to read it to her, or was
No,
it
it
just
was a
a
coping
symbolic
mechanism.
thing? Was it something almost magic? You thought if you make that book, things will change?
Yeah, well, it's kind of like I think with the drawing and the telling the story a different way, it was like me trying to see things differently.
That sounds wonderful. And then, of course, there's probably an interaction and a kind of karma which actually works.
No,
No, okay.
she still cried. She's still on the floor crying.
Okay,
Yes.
I barked up the wrong tree here. But so it wasn't even audacious on your part. It was a process.
Yeah,
And then-
yeah. I kind of feel like I stumbled into this. It wasn't really something I had planned.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Wout has had illustration as his topic forever, but then of course Stefan also. You were a carpenter
Yes.
and a social worker,
Yes.
and then you started thinking about anarchistic stories, and became a
Yes. I
Sure.
wanted to be a writer.
yeah.
So I quit my job and I started writing. It was like that. Yeah. And the first script I sent to a publisher, he said no, no good. And the second one, no good. And the third one, no good. With the fourth one, he said yes, make it a book. So and that's how it started.
So I still want to go back to Nancy then and ask, how did you get to the subject matter? The interesting thing about your book, and we're not going to tell too much about them because you want to have some secrets and some surprises there too. But the interesting thing is the ranger, and also the outlaw. You don't even know who is this. Is this a man or a child? Is this a boy or a girl? So it's a very almost a mythical or symbolic term. So how did the story of the ranger come to you
So
and the outlaw?
when I decided I wanted to take classes to learn about picture books, I was quite lucky. I went to a workshop, and Sophie Blackall had us drawing shadows, and so and then also Mac Barnett was there saying, kind of think about the things you like what things interest you. And at the time, I was reading a lot of westerns, and True Grit had come out by the Coen
yeah,
brothers.
Yeah, yeah.
So there was a lot of that
Jeff
percolating.
Bridges.
Yeah, so I'll pull out the image that was,
Yes, please do.
yeah, so there was, I went home and I made a version of this, and it was just a picture, but no words. So a few more years later, I ended up with a story. Yeah.
What was harder for you, doing the pictures or doing the story?
In this case, I think the picture came, and then the story came later. And I think I had to ground it in. It was actually another story that kind of inspired this. There was a writer named Patrick DeWitt who wrote Sisters, Brothers, and the two brothers, one of them decides, I'm not going to do this anymore. But he's been leading this life of crime, and we just have to think, well, how does he go back into society? And that was kind of all I needed to
Yeah.
kind of start that story.
But you say it's a question of what is first. So does it also come to you in different ways?
Yeah, I don't think it's ever the same. Like,
Okay.
this one didn't happen that way at all. Yeah.
I just want to show you why it's called the Crow series. So there's a big black bird in those books. And why a crow?
I almost thought of the crow as the storyteller, because to be
Okay.
able to see the points of view.
Yeah, the omniscient
different.
point of view, a bird's
Yeah.
eye view on everything.
Yeah.
Right. Mhm, that's interesting. you don't have that problem, Stefan. Images, or you write the words and you do the images. But do you have problems getting things balanced between your different visions, or how do you do that? What is the process of putting the words to the illustrations?
Oh, it's a process of talking and thinking and drinking coffee and
Walking.
walking, going up and front, and
Normally if we gonna write a book, the first thing is Stefan. He has an idea of a book, and then we are just planning a weekend to some place. It could be in the forest or in a city, and we just walk for 2 days or 3 days, and we just walk and talk. And I'm
Kind of
sketching
brainstorm.
things, and he's writing down some
Yeah.
things, and it's just brainstorming for
Yeah.
and just
Do you inspire each other? Do you also think about continuing the story? And he says,
Yeah.
"Can you draw it this or that way?"
yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Oh, that's
That's actually
surprising.
very important because Stefan is also writing for other illustrators, and I'm also drawing for other authors. But we have a connection. We talk really easy,
Yeah.
and the ideas are just combining
Yeah.
through a story and a book and
So it's usually coffee.
Coffee
In the
or beer or
evenings
wine.
and beer,
Okay.
Belgian
Starts
beers.
with
Yeah,
coffee.
just-
Yeah.
It didn't sound so inspirational,
Yeah.
just
It
coffee.
has to be. That's very important. We have to speak with one voice.
Yes.
Text and images should be one voice.
Yeah.
That's very important for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that becomes very obvious. So you must have two anarchistic minds, actually. Well, at first, if we look at Here Comes Granny, how many books have you done together by now? You had
Six.
the Mammoth.
Yeah,
Yeah, we've done 6.
6.
So I didn't know it all together because some appeared in German and some appeared just in Netherlands. You have the different,
They're
different
translated in
languages.
different languages.
Yeah, so we have to look out for them. And
Yes,
we
you
will after meeting you. Let's look at the materials you work with. Nancy, you have very interesting materials and that create mythical, almost dreamlike images. And True Grit is really a film that comes to mind when one looks at some of the images. So how did you think of the images, how you wanted to do them? Very little color, mostly gray, beige, bluish, pastel.
Yeah.
How do you achieve these impressions?
So there's only 4 colors that are used, and then pen and ink. So it's very traditional watercolor. I think the limited color palette kind of sets a mood too. It's got that kind of detachment of a Western, I feel. Yeah.
Yes.
So
And you also use some other materials, which I found very interesting.
I think you're talking about the text that gets transferred. So when I do my research, I'll have there'll be newspaper clippings from that time period, and if when I start out, I have to figure out my setting, otherwise I can't quite start drawing. So in the case of The Outlaw, it was kind of set in, I thought about the 1850s, somewhere in Western USA, maybe Oregon, and looking at images from that time. So I'll
And also
take-
newspaper clippings
and then just
and
transfer
archives,
some of that
textiles,
imagery.
and so forth.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is also inspiring then, and to get the whole vision of your subject. Shall we talk about who the persons are? The ranger, for example. Just
Sure. Yeah.
Tell us
yeah.
about the ranger.
The ranger is a girl named Annie, and she wanders kind of in this area that looks like a forest, and she comes across a fox. And she's been a bit of a loner, and so it's kind of looking at this fox and says, okay, you're injured, I'll take care of you, but she doesn't really want to, create any sort of attachment. So she's got some attachment issues, I guess.
Yeah. But to us as a German audience, the reindeer and seeing this figure, we don't know if it's a boy or a girl. And the fact that it is a girl, it's quite unusual, especially in this kind of time period. And so it's also the idea a little bit of a woman, of a girl being courageous, of empowerment. Was that also at the back of your mind?
Yeah, well, Maddie Ross from True Grit was kind of like in the back of my mind,
Yeah.
was a little bit,
Yeah.
yeah, part of the inspiration.
So you're in a flow. You're doing a series here, but your books are quite different. So this granny book, how did that get to you?
Whew.
How did it find you? I don't think your granny was like that, was she, Stefan?
No. I think it started with my mother-in-law.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Sometimes she acts a bit dangerous. So my children were a bit, they liked her a lot, but they also sometimes were a bit afraid of her. So, and that combination is in this book.
uh-huh.
Yeah. So in Dutch it means, the Dutch title is Be Aware of Grandma.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
more like it.
And it has a double issue like be aware of grandma, like be aware of the dog, but
Yeah,
also
yeah.
grandma's watching you. She
Yeah.
will take care. So
But she's obviously not a dog. She's
No,
not
it's
that cruel as
No,
a
no,
dog.
no.
But talking about getting there, actually, it started as a traditional children's book with 24 pages or something.
yeah,
And then
picture book. Yeah.
the publisher said like, "Oh no, this is a bigger story."
Yeah.
And then the weekend came in, the brainstorm weekend, and we went to the Ardennes, the southern part of Belgium. There are mountains and stuff like that. And that's in the book, I guess. So for me, that part is for both of us, of course, but for me especially because there are a lot of trees and forests in the book. So that's the perfect inspiration thing going to the southern part of Belgium, actually. So yeah.
So your books are almost like the classic Greek tragedy, according to Aristotle. You have a unity of time, one weekend, and of a place. The book,
I have to write this down. It's
the little old house with the creaking stairways in the woods,
Yeah.
and then of course action, grandmother and her 10
Yeah.
10 grandchildren, and she drives the bus to that forest, and then at the beginning, and then she drives it back, and a lot of interesting things happen in between.
Yeah.
And I've never seen a children's book which is so outspoken with things and little taboos. Farting, but that's the smallest one. There are many more taboos which are broken there, but in a very funny way. And
Yeah.
children's fears are being addressed in a comic way. So when you wrote that, to what kind of age group did you address that book? Or
This
did you have
book is
any
meant
age
for
group in
kids
mind?
starting from 7 till 11, 12 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have kids that age so you can test the
No.
books on them? No?
Not for my kids have grown up.
Okay.
And I don't have any kids, but
No. But we'll kick
we
ourselves.
are still kids.
Yeah.
So how
But
do you know
important
these
to
things
say-
will work? How do you know this will work?
By experience. Yeah. And when we were working on this book, we really felt like, yeah, this is good. Yeah. So it was fun to
Yeah, it
make
was
it.
coming together actually because my first drawings they were more traditional, as in a picture book way, I guess, and this book is more a comic, or
Yeah.
we sell it sometimes as a graphic novel for
Nancy,
kids.
could you just hand it to me, or you hold it up? You
We'll
show
show
some
how it
pages.
looks.
Yeah.
Like this. Looks like this.
So it's drawing for me. It's easier drawing for kids from 8 or 7 than
So those trees look a bit different from your trees, Nancy.
yeah. We're in Europe, right? Right now, this is Belgium.
Especially with a grandma climbing up and swinging from one branch
Yeah,
to
yeah,
another.
yeah.
So, do you have questions, being Flemish or Belgian children book authors? Do you have questions as far as Canadian children's books are concerned? Do you have questions to Nancy, who lives in Vancouver, who lived in Calgary before? is there a different school or tradition, or is it a totally individual thing?
I, I think I think the most of the Canadian books, I guess, are the French books that are, or that I am seeing at least, are more the French Canadian books. But I don't know.
I don't know. I think the tradition in books is more or less the same as in Belgium. I don't think there's a big difference. But if you're talking about taboos, what do you mean?
Children's books, if there's a school or a tradition that you feel bound to in a way, or well, you have many children's books. You say we didn't do it the way children's books are usually done, a little bit educational,
Yeah.
nice to look at.
But it's, yeah, there are more books like these in Belgium or in the Netherlands. So it's not that we started a revolution or something.
Okay.
The way we did it, it was one step further, but it's not like we started a revolution. But it's a wild book with a lot of humor in it, but it's not like,
Okay.
It's not that dangerous.
no.
But I think, yeah, I don't know if Canada has the same books or sort of books. I guess so, but
Yeah. But you have to start learning about each other now.
Yeah.
Are there taboos in Canadian literature, or in children's books, with things you can talk about, things you can't say, or
Taboos in children's books? Any traditions in Canadian children's books, or is it a very individual process with each author?
I find that the books that I like picking up, they're actually more likely from Europe than North America, because I feel like there's a lot. We get influenced quite a bit by our southern neighbors, and there's a lot more, I would say, editing that happens even before publishers are willing to take something on. Yeah.
So you think that they're more profound in Europe, or what would be the difference as compared to your southern neighbors?
Oh, yeah, I feel like there's just less taboo. Like when I look at European picture books, the topics that get picked up are.
Also, still the old puritanical idea.
I think so. I think we have that very much in North America. Yeah.
I'm so thrilled by the fact that did you have a workshop with Margaret Atwood?
I did
did you?
not.
No,
No, it was
you-
Sophie Blackall. Yeah, and
Okay.
yeah.
Because when she was a child, and she was very much influenced by myth and fairy tales, and her parents had gotten Grimm's fairy tales from Germany, and she read them as a child. And actually, the Grimm's brothers, the brothers Grimm, they lived very close to Frankfurt, well, 200 kilometers, which is nothing to Canadians. and what Margaret Atwood liked about those books were that they were so cruel. You know, they had people picking each other's eyes, sticking each other's eyes out, or burning a witch dancing in burning shoes and dying of that. And so the cruelty, which was also part of the process of the hero or of the child, and then of course had a happy end, or the world was set right in the end. That was something that intrigued her very much.
Okay.
How would you describe the thoughts behind your A Crow series? I think you're also looking, I wouldn't call it happy end, but for balance. What do you want children to get out of your books?
I think in life, like you don't always have things that get solved, and it's kind of ongoing. So I don't think the ending, especially in The Outlaw, is very clear. Like there are people who don't actually agree that the outlaw should be forgiven. So it kind of brings up issues for, I don't know, for the reader to think about and discuss. So I don't know if I consciously set out to not come to that conclusion, but it also had to feel real. Like,
When I read somewhere that your books are addressed to 3 years old, and that seemed a bit young to me. But I don't know any that much about children's books because I don't have children of my own. So, but which age or which book appears to which age? Plus, I think these things are changing a little bit all the time. So, what would you say? What kind of age are you appealing to?
Yeah, I don't think I get to set the age groups, but I kind of feel like kids are working at their own pace. So yeah, I think it's just something that they have to put on the book to say, well, you
I
could,
see.
yeah,
Yeah, that helps me to understand
yeah.
that. Yes. So each child finds its own
Yeah.
images and answers in the books. What do children tell you or write you, or what's the feedback you get from children when they have read your books?
One that was interesting was with the ranger. There was a school where the teacher had read the book to them ahead of time, and they had to make up their own stories. And at least 3 of the kids came back with stories where Annie has a house and a car, because I kind of found it disturbing that she was like just wandering around in the woods. It's like, oh, I see. So yeah, so they do bring a lot to the story after you've done it, and
yeah,
so yeah.
What about you? Which feedback do you get, especially as far as your images are concerned? Because it's not just a story, which is wild. The images are just so surprising. You find 1,000 little details, and their shapes and forms. And
Yeah. Children, they really see everything. They can really see very little details, but the thing we hear a lot, I guess, is that parents tell us like, "Oh yeah, my son or my daughter doesn't read that much, and she or he hates it in a way." And then there was this book, and it changed her daughter, or yeah, it changed her or him. The little guy, he was just curious about the cover and was just reading the book in one thing, in one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not really a book. It's not really a comic. It's something in between. Some kids start reading because it's of this new form.
So it seems to read easily or something, I
Yeah.
guess.
It's
So
attractive to kids. Yeah.
yeah. Nancy Vo, your books are so popular and so successful. So you don't want to end with the Crow trio or a trilogy. Do you have other ideas in mind for the future, which go beyond the old Western myth?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I don't think I'm stuck to like just the Western. So yeah.
So what ideas are you toying with?
Sometimes it takes a long time for things to come through right away, but there is another book coming out which will be completely different from a Western, and it's I don't know if the publisher will let me say it right yet, but it's called Boobies. So it's
Okay.
yeah, it'll be different from this.
What's it called?
Boobies,
In English?
boobies, yes.
Is it like the female breast or no?
Yes.
Okay. You never know. You know, in German, the
That's gonna
booby
be a
is a
hit.
boy or a boy. It
Okay.
could be anything. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So we'll be very curious to find out how you deal with that very important subject. What have you got up your trees?
We're working on a children's book festival right now. That will take place at the end of November. And after that, we're going to start a new series of books.
And there's some idea. I always wanted to do something with you choose the cowboys. I wanted to do something with pirates.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it's gonna be
Yeah.
Yeah, you can tell.
And I want to do something with a hotel, so it's going to be something with a hotel and pirates and
Okay.
We don't know yet,
Pirates
yeah.
checking into a hotel and
yeah, we don't know yet.
We still have to go on the weekend, you know.
Yeah.
So.
any
brainstorm as
unity
system.
about the a century when this is taking place?
We think now, this time.
Okay.
Yeah,
Modern pirates.
yeah.
So there's a lot of imagination. The nice thing is also your books, they show a lot of imagination, but they also leave room for the child's imagination, interpretation, ideas. And I think this is why kids can read them more than once. And thank you for coming here and being just so creative and so full of wonderful ideas and the techniques you use, which are so well matched with what you're expressing. So I hope that people will go outside and look at the bookstore, which is wonderful, and peruse through your books. And I think you will be happy to sign them. Are
Of
you?
course, yeah.
Okay, so there's even a nice table and chairs outside to sign the books if you want to get some for yourselves or for your kids or for friends' kids. It's soon Christmas anyway, isn't it? So, okay. Yeah, for grandma, for example. Okay. So, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being here. And I wish you a lot of joy and success and pleasure and fun at the fair and with your future work. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.